Hello, welcome back.
Summer recap. It's been a busy one.
It's been a little while. This is technically episode 4 of season 2, but you know, at this point we're just dropping like as and when. Do you know what I mean?
There is no order to this madness.
We made some false promises last time out, I'm pretty sure.
This is about our 5th restart, but we're still in season 2. It's the longest season ever.
I was in the middle of playing Far Cry when, like, 5 minutes before I sent that text, and had completely forgotten that we'd agreed to do this.
Yeah.
This is how poorly organised we are.
But we're going to get better, I promise, he says.
False
Massive
promises.
grin on your face.
Well, let's start with some housekeeping because, yeah, we're fully aware that we have no sort of release schedule. But this episode's just us 3, and the reason we're doing this is because we want to be able to do more episodes. So we figured, basically, it's not just us, the guests along as well. That's what we're saying, basically. Like, trying to organise us 3, and then another artist who's, like, flying around the world and doing loads of stuff and just flaky because everyone's flaky in this industry is very difficult. So we're like, you know what? Let's simplify it. And it still took us 2 months to get us 3 in the same room. So,
but we're here now.
We're here now. So we're just gonna drop some bars just like about drum and bass for this episode, I think.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah, like I said, we're doing more of this. It gives us an opportunity to be a bit more interactive as well with the Amen Brother, the posse. We haven't got a name for our podcast followers, I just realised.
The Amen Brothers.
The Amen Brother. No, but that's not inclusive.
Really
that's not inclusionary.
enough, no.
That's not inclusive. The Amen Brethren.
Yeah, I like that.
That's what we're going to be called from now on. So yeah, we want to get you guys more involved. So I think the next episode we do with just us, we'll do some questions and some shout outs and stuff on Instagram, and we'll make it a bit more interactive because you don't want to hear us once a month just talk about the same stuff every single month. Or maybe you do. I don't know. Let us know.
I don't want that.
I don't want that either.
No.
And with Rich, it will be the same topic every single month.
Why haven't I not played New Zealand yet?
Yeah. Well, he's got to talk about that. He is coming.
We'll see.
But yeah.
I ain't counting my chickens yet.
The last episode was like 4 months ago, so we've got a lot to catch up on. So, or 3 months ago?
Yeah.
I think it was.
I don't know.
I think it was June or
That was more
May.
a wince of, like, disdain for...
It's poor.
Yeah.
I feel like it was the
Poor
beginning of
performance.
the year. It was recorded, like first quarter, maybe
yeah.
like March.
Let's not dwell on how shit we've
Yeah,
let's move on from that.
Only solutions, not problems.
Apologies to that guy we saw at Project 6.
Oh yeah,
who
shout
was
that
a
guy
G,
out.
yeah.
Shout that. And you know what happened again in Hospitality in the Woods as well? Like, I say this quite a lot. I'm pretty sure I get 50-50 split of when people come up to me to talk to me about Galaxy or whatever. It's either going to be half the time it's about Galaxy and the other half is about this podcast.
Yeah,
Was it
same.
really?
Honestly.
Yeah,
well,
same.
we're not all Polar and Bryson.
Yeah,
so
we're not all as famous as you.
we're not all doing 10 million streams on a tune in like 2 months. So,
Most of the time people come to talk to me, they're asking me for a lighter or they're assuming I'm someone else.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
True.
Kept it low key.
But yeah, shout out the guy at Project 6. Can't remember your name, but you were very funny. And basically, me and Rich were at Project 6. Jack's looking at me like I'm confused. But he came out to us.
Just
and
baked.
He gave us a dressing down in the middle of the Caliber set about how shit we are releasing episodes.
Oh, right.
He
Like,
bigged us up first,
Yeah.
and he was
Yeah.
like, "I love your podcast," but he's like, "I've got one gripe about your podcast," and it's basically was just you don't do enough podcasts.
yeah.
Yeah, we are really shit.
I had the same conversation on Hospitality in the Woods as well with a couple of people, just like, why? What are you doing? Like,
Thanks for like actually committing and caring enough to come and say something though.
yeah,
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
it
Big
does
ups.
give us a bit of a kick, to be fair.
Yeah, because we just sit here and assume there's not that many people that
Yeah.
care about us and our ramblings.
It is tough to lock down guests though. It's not like we're not trying.
Yeah, we are
Like,
trying. We are trying.
But we're also not
It's
trying
weird.
that hard.
No, we're not trying hard enough.
Let's not gas
It's
it.
not a main
No.
priority. It's on
Yeah.
the list, but
Yeah, let's not gas it too much. But yeah, how's everyone's summer's been?
Busy.
yeah,
Well, yeah, we, obviously.
quiet.
Yeah.
The contrast of the DJ and the MC right there.
We're
Let's get
starting
into the
already.
show.
Let's not.
I'm joking. I'm joking. But
I've had a nice summer, like just from a like life point of view.
yeah.
You know, travelled a bit, played some shows.
It's kind of what I mean by like busy.
Busy, yeah.
I've had quite a lot of time off and weekends away,
yeah.
and left Harry unfortunately playing quite a few shows. So
Shout out Harry.
I owe him a big apology for that because I kind of before I knew it, I'd like. He turned around to me and he was just like, "You got quite a lot of time off this summer, you know, when we're really busy usually." And I'm like, "Oh God, yeah, that's really added up. I didn't realise I've got like half the dates off, like, and I'm just leaving you to play solo, which we don't like to do too often. But it's obviously it's hard. I've got a lot of teachers in the family, and there's kids in the family, so you can only really go away in the summer break. So that makes it a lot like very difficult. But also, like with me and Harry don't like doing that, but it's hard to make plans with your family because then bookings come through afterwards.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it's hard to commit to stuff.
Yeah, it's
like
difficult.
even like with
But we're out of that now. We've got a plan moving forward, so we know how to avoid that.
okay.
It's a learning curve.
Is the plan to sack your family off, or
Basically, yeah. No.
Just forget we have families. Just DJ all the time.
Yeah, just work.
Yeah, fair. That's good though. It's good that you're also taking time for yourself because mental
It's
health.
important. It is
Really
important.
Obviously, me and Rich have lots of breaks, so not necessarily intended, but it's all good. But yeah, no, I think summer's been. We're not going to talk about the weather. We're not that dry.
No,
but
that.
it's been nice. We've released some music, quite a lot actually.
Yeah.
We're kind of annoying actually how much music we've got coming out actually, which is actually something I want to talk about today as well. We'll get into that, but that's been good. For the first time, we're actually on a bit of a roll, releases and production wise, which is nice because we've never really been that way. But yeah, that's been good.
Was that time between work you think helped?
I also just think something clicked production wise.
Because I remember you being really like on it all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think honestly, like we've just simplified a little bit how we make music, and things are just a bit more. What's the word? A bit more finessed. I don't know. Like it just feels like right now for us to write tunes is an easier job.
Yeah.
And like the levels just gone up, so it's just been like, I guess less second guessing. I don't know. Yeah, we just hit that stage where it's just a lot easier to write music. So I'm not going to complain. We're going to keep it going, man. Lots of releases coming out. Your album's been out for a while. Was your album out? It just came out when we did the last podcast, I think. Or was it just about to come out? You'd announced it.
I think we said by the time it was like one of those ones where it's like by the time you hear this, it will be out. So that's why it must have been. We recorded it in April, probably early April.
So it is now out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
Do you know what? Oh, it's kind of interesting, isn't it? Like it's been a weird one. Like I've been a bit disenchanted if I'm going to be totally honest, and I feel like this is a space to be honest.
It's a safe
like,
space.
Yeah, like you put an album out, you put all this work into it, and it gets received well, and like you're really happy with lots of like peer feedback and stuff like that. And then it comes to the slog of like selling it online. And actually I've really, really struggled with that. You know, I actually remember this conversation that you and me had, Jack, where you were like, I was sort of like, oh yeah, it's just nice to get it done. Like, sweet. Like now I can just like move on, do some more shit. And you were like, no, mate, this is when the work starts. You've got to like plug that and like
album
get it.
comes out, mate, and that's where the real work starts.
And honestly, it resonated like about 2 months in, because I just realised that this constant need to post online was just, I don't know, it's just doing my nut in, man.
Yeah.
I've taken like, if you look at my socials, I've not really been active, and it's like you post something music related, 100 likes, whatever. I post a picture, a video of me being a twat in a river last week, and it's like 600 likes.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's what angle do you come from? How do you reach your audience? I was having a bit of a torrid time, like just thinking, what am I doing here? Like I work full time, and then when I have gigs, and like juggling gigs, daughter, girlfriend, it's like, honestly, I actually had a bit of like, I need to take a step back. It actually all got a bit too much for me over the summer.
Yeah.
And then it'd be like, oh, now I haven't got gigs for a couple of weeks. So it's like, I can't do the gigging full time, which would give me a lot more time off to focus on the stuff I want to do. But then when you do have the gigs, it's like, okay, you're working a full week, and I'm working a 7-day week and flying back from Romania at like 6 a.m. to look after my daughter on the Saturday. Honestly, it's just been a bit of a mad summer like that. And I've realized I need to take more time for myself, and I'm going to, really hit it hard for a couple of years. But if I can't end up doing this full time soon, like, I don't know, man, I'm in a bit of a headspace where I'm pondering, like, what am I doing here? Because there's no quality of life to be working that hard, and when there's not really the just rewards as a result of it.
I feel like there's a couple of things there. I think post-album, especially post-first album, there's a big lull, like mentally, energy-wise, for music. Like, me and Tom took a year off after our first album. Like, literally, we didn't release for like a year.
Yeah.
Obviously, we released in COVID as well, and that's a terrible time to release an album, but did it. So I think that's quite natural. I think if you speak to most artists that have done albums, there's this big, like, you put so much of yourself and so much time and so much energy into it, and ultimately your expectation in your head is probably always so like grandiose about how well it should do.
Yeah.
In reality, your album's probably done as well as it should have done.
Yeah.
And I mean that in like a really respectful, like,
no, of course.
Everyone has this idea, like, I've released an album that's going to change the game for me. the reality is, I think personally, albums are a lot more for you yourself than they are for your career.
Yeah,
I would say,
especially in the modern climate as well.
In the modern climate,
I would agree to an extent. I would say that you're kind of. I would agree with half of that statement, but I would also state that I think the purpose of a debut album isn't just from a personal standpoint. I think it also goes a long way in cementing your profile as an artist to the rest of the world.
100%.
So promoters that are booking you, people that would pay you for a remix and stuff. I think it's a flex almost, being like, look, I'm committed to this, and it's one of those things where you do get that hard work does pay off, but you have to.
It's indirect.
It's kind of, and it's long term as well, because it's like once you do the debut album, you've now got the debut album is boom, I'm making a big splash, but that's not going to directly like result in doubling your booking fee or suddenly like tripling how many shows you're getting. But it's how you follow up after the album and showing that you're as committed as you were during album mode to release your singles and your EPs. That's where I think that's where it was for me and Harry. We'd put out the debut album, and admittedly we'd only done one EP before that, but I think the pressure of an album really showed us how key it is to kind of get behind that promo and plug and sell what it is you're crafting. Because at the end of the day, there's what's that clip that Tyler the Creator, where it's just like, you've written this, you've put your heart and soul into it, and what, you're going to throw out one story about it? Be like, no, fuck that, man. Shout about it.
I saw a thing the other day.
Proud about it.
I saw a thing the other day about, when Dave and Central C did that tune Sprinter, it was a number one for like 10 weeks, and someone did a TikTok or an Instagram or something about it, and he was like, look at the fact that Central C still posts about his tune every single day.
Yeah.
Or Dave, one of them. Basically, like that hustle is never done with this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I think Phone Line taught us that. Like, you should still be shouting about your tune 9 months after it came out. Why not? That's how you grow tunes that people resonate with for a longer period of time. It's not giving up, not seemingly giving up on the track itself after 2 months. Like yourself, the artist isn't even acknowledging the existence of that tune.
Then no one's going to care about it.
Do you know what I mean? I think if it really shows
it's an interesting point, because I went through all the emotions of this, and then obviously you have these, then you start having rational thought. I love doing this. I've been doing this for 25 years. Like, I've put my heart and soul into it, and I do agree with what you were saying about the album. And I guess there was a level of like disappointment in like myself and not shouting about it, and then the conflict of, is it now too late to still plug it? Which obviously it's not. Yeah. So like, I'm going through the motions, and I'm going to start getting actually back on it, just because I do think it's a listening piece. And what you said about albums, I really agree with, because I think someone that also all of a sudden finds your music might be like, oh, I'm really into this person, and they'll go and listen to your album. So that's it's timeless, it's frozen in time, that thing that you've created. And I think that's the beauty of the album, and that's why.
From a content point of view, there was actually, I'm in this ridiculously big group chat with a bunch of like overview artists and stuff. Pete runs a group chat, and that chat's active. It's like every day. But there was a thread in that chat about social media posts and the fact that it is playing a game, and obviously like some people conform to doing the kind of like generic templated posts, but the people that stand out, I think it was Andy Deggs that actually said it, and I totally agree. Like, there is a lane for everyone on social media, basically, in terms of what you post. And I think that's what me and Tom had to figure out, and I think we've finally got it now. You can do like the kind of, there's like formulas that work on Instagram for sure, in terms of like, if you do this kind of reel, you'll face the camera and all this stuff. But some people aren't comfortable with that, and ultimately a lot of producers are weird, introverted people who don't want to be doing that stuff. Like, ultimately, you spend 10 hours a day on your computer in your room, you're probably not going to want to scream to like thousands of people.
Social media content, it is becoming its own, I don't want to call it an art form, but it's like you have your own creative stamp that you can put on what you're promoting, right? So it is different. I'm not going to say it's no different, but it's very similar to the input and creative view you have of the music you're making, the creative view you'll have of the artwork you're going to pair with that music, and then the music video, you want to have a say on how that's going to look and how that turns out to pair with your music video. I think the social media content that you use to promote yourself as an artist and your music you should have that same sort of creative view and input and take on it.
Yes, when you're talking about
artwork, because it kind of, you're using it to complement.
Yeah, it's all part of the same.
Not necessarily promote it.
No, and that's what kind of the point I was going to make was, in terms of when you're talking about not wanting to post about the album in a promotional way, you've got like 14 tracks on there. all the different story, all the different message. That is like endless amounts of content that you can dive into and do it in a really esoteric Visionobi way, where you really get deep on it and like talk about lyrics that no one cares about, but you really go in on it. Like, honestly, like I'm taking the piss a little bit, but like genuinely, that is your like release plan for the next 6 months, right there.
It's just niche, I think, as well.
But
Like, it's kind of niche.
Lean into it though, is what I'm saying.
No, 100%, and that's what I think when I went through the motions of. And actually, there was a flip of this where I went to hospitality. Weekend in the woods, or what's it, in the woods? Yeah, it's only one day now, and it's
like it was like 2 weeks ago as well.
Yeah. So I went, but I went there, and I ended up having like loads of inspiring conversations actually with like peers, and then someone in particular was just like almost had me like crying basically, because they were like, your message. Like they were like, the scene needs your message, whether you think it does or not. What you're doing. It was Lady MC, Indigo Rain. Like shout out to her, like ratings. She was like, I play a tune every like rinse show, and she just went in, and it was like I was in this place where I'd been like quite a negative headspace. I thought that's what I was venting in that space. Just then.
You're never negative.
Shut up, mate. But like I was about. I don't know, just like I'd kind of gone through the motions with it, and then just having that conversation with her was a bit mad, because it just makes you realise that someone's listening and someone gives a shit, and it's like, I know it's deep, meaningful, and a bit like, like you said, like taking the piss, like sort of thing, like it's a bit like wishy-washy or lost on some people, whatever, but I don't know, there are people that do care, and I'm aware of that. It's just, I guess, just have to remind yourself and just do it for the reasons that you are doing it, which is always how I've been. I guess that transfer to social media, I guess since I've had a kid, I think that's just taken a bit of a back step. Whereas I used to be some drunken idiot on social media, and I'd quite happily post me being a pisshead, whereas now I'm not really a pisshead. So I guess you got to kind of reevaluate and look at like the different ways of approaching it.
That's what I'm saying. And ultimately for you, or for, I think we're all quite similar, the music is the content, man. Like, just lean in on that. Like, if you're good at, I was sort of saying in that group chat as well, it's like, whatever you're good at and whatever you think you can do better than a lot of people, just make that your content. Like, we started, we've only done one, we're supposed to do like 5 by now, but like we did a thing on, I think in January or Feb, where like I went to a record store, bought some vinyl, I filmed the whole process, sampled it, made a tune for me, played out in a club. So it was kind of like record store to like club content, which I felt really comfortable doing, because that's just like me making music but with a camera on. And like it did really well. Yeah, should have done more. We have filmed some more. Haven't edited them. The editing's long, by the way. Yeah, shout out video editors, because that is so long. By the way,
CapCut.
Yeah, it's just
CapCut is good actually.
Yeah, changed the game.
Yeah, but as an example, like that just felt very natural, because it's literally just making a tune, right? But it's like people find that stuff interesting.
The problem is you're not full-time music. No. Neither am I. You can sit there on CapCut with your Monday afternoon being like, I'm going to put my weekend into a video, whereas I'm getting home at like 7 p.m, like trying to cook dinner and get to bed on time to get back up for 6 a.m. It's like, I'm busy, man, and it's tough, and it's like, I can't do it full time. So I guess that's the paradox I ended up in. That's the negative space. Is just like, I would love to be able to put my all into this music game, but in order to do that, I need to have more gigs, earn more money.
It's a cycle,
and that's it. And I've been in that cycle for so long, and it's like, when does this end?
I mean, look, you're a very honest and open person, Rich. You've talked to us about this on here, like, and you talk to people about this openly through your music and stuff, right? So, like you said, you're busy. You have another job. You're driving a lot. Like, there's not to say that you're putting up boundaries or barriers in front of yourself, but you've got time where you're sat in a car and you've got a phone and you've got a phone mount. So just turn that into selfie cam mode. And I know you can fucking spit and freestyle bars. Like, you can do hundreds of bars.
This is
your
like
an 18-minute freestyle whilst you're driving.
Yeah, there's ways.
I still need to do something with that thing.
Yeah, 100%. But the point I'm making is that you could sit there, play your tune quietly on in the background, film yourself whilst you're driving, and just like speak openly. You're not even focused on the camera. So you can take all that kind of like fakeness out of it. You could just sit there and just openly talk about the message behind that verse.
It's a good idea.
Gosh, there you go, mate. Like, and now all of a sudden, who else is doing
space?
That? Yeah, no, but for real, like that's what you need to like. I'm not trying to say that I know anything about filmmaking at all. I'm not trying to say that at all. But there is a YouTuber called Casey Neistat that quite a lot of people will know. Yeah, he's absolutely massive. But I've I've always been interested in sort of photography and filmmaking, and I've never kind of understood it or felt like I was, because I'd never been taught it by anybody. So I didn't feel qualified to kind of have much of an opinion on it when it came to like the idea of actually shooting things. And then watching him as a YouTuber and him talk, the way he talks about filmmaking, he talks about his YouTube videos and his TikToks and his reels like it's a movie. He talks about like he directs it, he storyboards it, and all of this sort of stuff. And he talks, the way he refers to it and the respect he puts into the thought process of it, it changed kind of my outlook on what's necessary and what makes a video unique. Almost, one of the things he says is that he talks about. He's done one where he talks about his best camera, and he starts the video by just saying, "My best camera is the camera that I've got closest to hand." That's honestly the best answer. So he carries as many cameras as he can, but there is an instance where that massive digital SLR is not fit for purpose. So the GoPro is the best camera for the job, regardless of what the picture quality is. And we've seen that go on TikTok now. Like, polished, clean videos are not the content you want to be sharing on social media. You want that kind of DIY handheld look to your content. There's no better time to try something like that, man. And the thing is, with TikTok, it's a great place to try shit.
Yeah, there's no punishment really on TikTok, is there?
I mean, there's no punishment on social media at all anymore. Like 30 seconds later, mate, people have moved on. Try something, post it. If you like it and people respond to it and people like it, then you can leave it up. If you don't, sack it off, archive it, delete it, or just leave it up and see what happens. But I'd like try some stuff. Just get that camera out randomly and just, because the thing is, there's no harm in filming something. That doesn't mean you have to post it. You can just look back at it, share it with some people, and go, "What do you think of that?"
It's the effort. Just need to put more effort into it. It's just like
stop
making excuses. Yeah.
Sorry, not trying to say it like that,
lazy.
but like,
Look,
no, I'm not. And again, like,
get it. You're
busy.
I speak. Get it. Right.
that busy, I'm free on most weekends.
Yeah,
not
I get
October,
it,
but catch me in November.
I get it. I'm speaking obviously from a position of privilege where I've got all the time, every day, every week to do this and really put thought into it. But like.
It's
but
just
that
the
being said,
it's the motivation in it, but like having that time, like it would be nice to have that time, but like we said, it's like you got to kind of put in that work again, and then maybe you might get your just rewards in the end. But I'm not holding my breath.
The reason I'm saying this as well is because me and Tom literally went through this maybe about 9 months ago. We literally had an active conversation with like, we need to make more music and just be more there, basically, and just put more effort in. And it's starting to work, man. Like we've written 2 EPs. That one's coming out end of the year, and like we're just doing more. Like, and I get it, like the social media thing, we talk about it all the time, and it doesn't feel like it should be part of the job, and a lot of people don't want to do it, but ultimately, it is part of the job.
You got it, man.
Yeah, and but then the thing about the reason we make music is it's fun and we want to express ourselves. The way to like frame it is, well, how can I translate that? Jack kind of said it already, but like, how can I translate that to also doing this stuff? Yeah, so it feels like less of a chore. And it is a chore. Now, I won't sit here and say I really enjoy doing social media, but you can make it more enjoyable. It just will require some effort and some creativity. Basically.
It's less so if you do the stuff, like you said, the stuff that's more natural. I guess I've just fallen a bit off the wagon of doing that since having a daughter and just been putting my priorities elsewhere, to be honest. And then it just got to a point where everything just got too much, sort of imploded, and I was just like, that's actually got to take a back seat for a while. Yeah. Like anything, it ebbs and flows. Like, it will come back.
This is the other thing I was going to say about the post-album. Like, that's completely natural as well. But I would only say now, really, since we released our album in 2020, we've kind of got back on track, if that makes sense. Like 3 years later, I would say we're now, like, if we had done this straight after the album, we'd be like further ahead in our careers. But there's a lot to be said about just being fulfilled with what you're doing at the time as well. Yeah, that's the other thing I was going to say as well. I had loads of points to make, actually, now I think about it.
But then also as well, like,
I haven't finished yet.
Sorry. I
thought this guy is just cutting me off. Like,
it's gonna be like Rich's social media therapy episode.
Well, yeah, but like, this is a general point. I saw a video. I think it was a YouTube video about this DJ who had he was in this duo. It was like some EDM duo I'd never heard of, but they got pretty big. And he basically posted this video the other day where he was talking about why he quit when he was at the top, and it was about all these things about always chasing the next thing, which obviously you want to do. You want to be ambitious, but it was also like. The message that I took back from the video was like, there's a lot to be said about being fulfilled about what you're doing before you go after your dreams, if that makes sense. So it's like, if you're not satisfied with the fact that you get to make music and people listen to it, and then, you know, when you do a project and it doesn't, you have this like kind of inflated idea of how well you should be doing, you're always going to be kind of disappointed because you're just like constantly chasing the next level of like gratification or like recognition. But really, you're already doing the thing that you wanted to do 10 years ago. Yeah. And that's not to say don't stop trying to push for more, but it's like you need to also sit back and just be really kind of grateful for the fact you get to do this thing. I like that message. Basically, I think there's a lot to be said for that.
But then also as well, like the other thing I wanted to just mention was that with your album and with any music that you write, like catalog is key. So all you're doing is you've planted the seeds of your album and it's come out, but that fruit is that vegetable is not going to go. It's not going bad.
Man
It's
said
like
the
it's there
vegetable.
for everywhere.
Man said the vegetable is not going bad.
What vegetable would you describe my album as, Jack?
A moist one.
Courgette.
Courgette.
Yeah, man.
A moist one, John.
Yeah.
No, it's just like
tomato.
flavoursome.
Tomato's a fruit, by the way.
soft.
Oh, yeah, come on, bro.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, not courgette. I was thinking of
Aubergine.
yeah, aubergine. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Courgette was pretty dry, yeah.
Yeah.
I was quite upset about
No,
that.
sorry,
actually.
that's
No,
not
you
what I
made
meant. I meant
it aubergine. It's a
aubergine.
bit more fruity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here for it.
Go on.
Sorry. Yeah. What I was going to say was that like it can be part of like your message, just the openness of why you haven't promoted your album as well. Like there's no harm in being open and honest with the people that support you, because the people
I'll
that
always
support
Be that, yeah, for sure. Like, hence why I'm here chatting
Yeah.
shit about
That's
it.
it.
Like, I don't really
Because-
care. It's nice to be, because I think on social media, again, you see a lot of the good shit.
Yeah.
It's like, actually, I prefer it when people are real. So I'm here
Yeah.
to just be real and be like, it ain't all, like singing and dancing. It's like, it can be tough.
I think there's a point I want to clarify as well about the whole, like, you have to be doing the social media thing. Just to clarify, you actually don't have to do the social media
No.
thing. I think there's certain artists who are so in their own space and so in their own lane that the music really is, like, there's classic examples, Caliber Break example, like, et cetera, et cetera. But also they've got the benefit of having a career that's like 20 years long, and they're already really established by the time this social media age kind of came about. And there are some artists who aren't really active on socials, but every time they drop a piece of music, it's like still, it's really hard to do that, basically. I think with the amount of people that release music now, it's so hard to do that. But there also is a valid approach. I think any approach, whatever approach you want to take, is valid. But yeah, if you're going to be in the game of making music to be consumed by people who consume a lot of social media, all I'm saying is it makes sense to be present on that platform as well.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
But also, if you're just writing the music because you want to write it, and you know people will hear it and will enjoy it, then don't matter whether you promote it or not.
Yeah.
Because even if it's just 20 of your mates hearing
it's
it
tied-
and they
it's-
share it to 3 of their mates, it's
Yeah.
like, well, that's great.
In a
People
way,
are
it's-
enjoying it.
In a way, it's tied to what your intention is with the music, I think.
Yeah.
Ultimately. So, yeah. I'm not trying to say you have to do social media, but it helps.
So everyone had a lovely summer then.
Yeah.
Everyone had a
I was
lovely
thinking that was a
summer.
bit of a segue, wasn't it? I was literally just thinking that.
We went straight into the Rich Moan zone.
Yeah.
Well, no, we were
Like
talking about the
immediately.
album and we were talking
Yeah.
about how it came out. But yeah, no, I'm glad that do you feel a little bit more sort of positive
Honestly,
about it?
I was already feeling more positive about it. I just felt like it was something I should share, because you
Yeah.
asked me
No,
very
of
openly and
course.
honest about my album.
Yeah,
So I was
yeah.
like, I've been through
He
this
didn't.
process.
He was kind of like, how is it? And then you just went off on one. But
yeah,
fine.
that's what I do, though, innit? You know me. But yeah,
I honestly can't
Yeah.
remember what I felt like after we did our first one.
Yeah.
'Cause
I
it- 'cause
remember.
it's just- It's
for
not
sure.
like it was that long ago. It's just we've done 2 others since. So I remember how
Yeah.
I felt off the back of the last one. I can't remember how I felt off the back of the second or the first one.
Yeah.
But I can barely remember what happened last week.
For
to
me,
be
the
honest
album was always a personal milestone for me.
with you. Yeah.
So I just felt like I ticked that off the list, like release an
Same.
album, and now I feel like I don't have to do another one. So I just
Did
remember.
you not
being-
want to do another one, though? 'Cause
Nah.
I would like to do another one, because
Not anytime soon.
The actual process of it for me is the enjoyable part. But
Yeah.
like from a career perspective, it's probably best to do them at
spaced out?
Yeah.
It depends. Some people like just do albums, but that actually brings me to the point I was going to make next about momentum as well. So like something that me and Tom, I would say, have really learned is the importance of momentum as well.
Yeah.
And that's not to say you should just throw out music at a fixed interval just because the algorithm says you have to. You obviously have to make sure the music is of a standard that you're happy with and it conveys a message. But yeah, part of the reason I don't want to do another album is because it takes you out of the game for 18 months, let's say, from start to finish, writing it to releasing it, which is okay for some people. But for me and Tom, we just wanted to have more music out there because we had so much music on our computers that was kind of half finished. And like, because you're then thinking about framing it in an album, it needs to all be of a certain aesthetic, which also requires you to be in the same headspace a lot of the time as well. It's basically writing an album is quite hard, especially when you're not full time.
Yeah,
is what I'm trying to say. Like, because you want it to be really coherent and stuff. And when we did our first album, that all kind of came together because we hadn't done one yet. So we had a lot to say on that album, or a lot to like convey or whatever. I feel like now, where we're at with our careers, it doesn't make sense to do one because I just don't know what it would be. It sounds kind of a bit like philosophical, I guess, but I feel like the album timing is like you'll kind of know when it's time to write our album.
Yeah.
It's kind of what I think. But right now for us, this is more about we've got a lot of good music that we want to get out there, and let's just get it out. And it's been really enjoyable releasing more music. So that was kind of the momentum thing as well. It kind of ties in like with bookings and with like, yeah, the social media stuff. It all ties in together. Like if you're consistent, and it's difficult being consistent in the creative space because ultimately if you're not feeling creative, what you're supposed to do. But like if you basically once you're in that purple patch, you just have to make the most of it basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, we wrote 2 EPs probably in the space of like 2 months, but that's like a whole year of releases, like good to go. And because now I think we're coming back into another patch of like being creative again, but like we had a like 2 month period where we weren't. It doesn't really matter because we've got releases stacked up ready to go. So it's like just that consistency I think's really helped. And that's one thing we've had to learn. And next year's 10 years of Galaxy, and like we've learned that 9 years in. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, me and Harry were a very similar thing. Like off the back of Phone Line, we were like, oh God, we've got to have something ready to go because this is doing well, but that won't last for very long. And then we would set things up. You know how it can be, like you'd have a collab with this person, but because of the featured artists that's on the record, their schedule with their label means that they can't do it then, but then you can't do it 2 weeks later because you've got something else coming out because you're doing a remix for this thing. And suddenly, before you know it, like that thing that in theory you could put out tomorrow or put out in a week is coming out in 4 months' time because of everybody that's involved. Everyone's schedules all clash. That's one of the things that just like it irks me the most about this kind of this expectancy that music can just kind of drop tomorrow. And in some cases it can, but like there are a lot where there's lots of moving pieces and it sometimes isn't that simple. But yeah, I mean, we had a similar thing where we were teeing things up with the expectancy that the kind of hype on Phone Line was just inevitably going to just drop at some point, and then things would fall through.
It hasn't, by the way.
And luckily it hasn't. Yeah, it's like that momentum has just kind of like continued somehow. But yeah, like the next kind of it's so easy to sort of try and plan that momentum. There's always going to be things that come up and get in the way of it. But it's why almost essentially you have to double down on it.
This is what I'm saying,
because half of what you want to do is going to fall through, or complications are going to come up.
Yeah,
so and you kind of almost have to double down with it.
In terms of committing time to it as well, that's the other thing as well, man. Like I have to actively say to myself, next week I'm just going to write music. I'm not going to go out. Like as a single man in London, the temptation is to be out all the time.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, sometimes you got to be like, I'm just going to write music. And fair enough, I do appreciate you've got more commitments than I do for sure.
So
it's harder for you. But yeah.
Talking to Rich there, not me.
Not you, bro. You just smoke weed and write tunes.
Yeah,
like,
that's my life.
That is your only commitment.
I think new misses as well in the mix, definitely. Like, you know, that one, it like takes up a lot of time.
Why do you think I'm single, mate?
Which is good.
I'm all about my career, man. That's why.
Yeah, that's exactly what you were saying to me in the car on the way here. Yeah, funny that.
But yeah, it's like I always say, just not even to do music, just generally, like you make time for the things you really want to do. And whenever people say to me, I haven't got time to do X, Y, and Z, but you've made an active choice to reprioritize. And I get that. Sometimes you have to, right? Priorities sometimes have to take precedent. And this is not aimed at you. This is a general comment about people making time. I read a book, actually, which I will recommend, called 4,000 Weeks. I think I maybe have mentioned it before. Really good book. It's called 4,000 Weeks because that's the average human lifespan. And this book is basically written by a guy. Oh,
God, it's so depressing when you put it into weeks.
It's mad, isn't it?
I don't like that. No, stop.
I mean, I'm definitely not getting to 4,000.
Yeah, so that's like 80-something. That's like 80-something years old, isn't it? And like, yeah, so you got to think, it's like me and you in our early 30s, we've already done like 1,600 weeks or something, if you want to put it that way.
No, don't put it that way. Don't put it that way.
The reevaluating thing is interesting, though.
But basically, this book is real good because it's written by a guy who got obsessed with, like, you know, them books that are like the 5-hour work week and like how to be the most efficient person ever. Basically, he got obsessed with like this ideology, and then it got to a point where like he was achieving loads of stuff, but he was really unhappy. And basically, he realized that the whole idea of like just being a really efficient robot of a human and getting all this stuff done is basically a massive fallacy. And I think he describes the book as the anti-time management book. I would read it, man. It's sick. It's really
nice. He's suggesting that like it's balance.
Yeah, and basically he talks about, you know, really how to make sure you make time for the most important things you actually want to do.
Yeah.
And taking time for yourself. There's loads of just little good tidbits. There's obviously loads of like anecdotes in there. I would just recommend it as a book to read, just for anyone really, because I think, not to get too deep, but like the Western world, we're so driven by this like kind of capitalist mentality that you have to be doing more.
Yeah.
It was weird because the tune we just released for the first time has got on like all these big playlists, like on New Music Friday, massive DMB, but we've been on that one before, and they got on this other one called Alter, which is like this alternative electronic music with like Fred again and all these people on it.
Yeah.
Like not much drum and bass on there, and I was like, it was weird because I was sat down, and I was like, this is actually really sick, but it's also weird that I was like, I don't know, I just felt like, should I be also gassed about this? It's a weird thing to think about, basically. I think like
should you be excited about the fact
is
that
this
you've got
really
put on a Spotify playlist, or should that really matter?
It's almost like Stockholm syndrome, isn't it, with Spotify? Because
yeah. No, I know.
Spotify is like the overlord of the music industry now, and they've obviously, in some ways, legitimized it because obviously illegal downloads were a thing when the CD kind of era was here, and people weren't making any money.
They injected convenience into music.
Yeah, but then when technically artists are getting paid, but ultimately, we're not getting paid.
They're getting paid peanuts.
Yeah, so it's like
but better than piracy.
Yeah, so it's like, but it is like Stockholm syndrome, isn't it? Because like we're trapped by this streaming culture. So and it's weird that I feel gassed about getting on his playlist. Don't get me wrong, it is cool to see like GLXY alongside like all these like crazy artists. Like that is cool. But yeah, I don't know. It was just a weird one. I had this thought like 2 days ago. I don't know. What do you guys think about it?
Don't get me going again, mate.
Yeah, we ain't got that much time.
I mean, look, I think it's a faceless version of getting your tune played on the radio.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, it's
shifted, hasn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, look, I'm not the best person to speak on this. I don't know who and how tunes are pitched and picked for playlists. There may be some dark underbelly that I'm totally oblivious
to. Under the table deals.
Do you know what I mean? There might be some of that. I don't know. Like, I'm not saying that there is. I'm not saying that there isn't. I have no clue.
There's like a bit of that for sure.
Same as radio plug and earn it.
Yeah, but exactly. Yeah. Like, and so it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest bit if like some people carry more weight, whether that's record labels or pluggers or artists or distributors. Yeah, whoever it is. But I think it's a strange one because it's. When a DJ plays your tune on the radio, it could be through the radio network and the pluggers, or it could just be through the DJ going, "I really rate your tune." In which case,
that's nice.
Regardless of which reason they've picked, it's fair for you to assume and go, "Well, they picked my tune because they bloody like it."
You know what? That's funny actually, because that happened to us the other day when we did that tune with Lawrence, Unconditional.
Yeah.
I can't remember who it was. Some Radio 1 DJ literally DM'd us and was like, "Can you send me that tune? 'Cause I want to play it tonight on the radio." That was really nice because it was like, "Oh, sick!" Like this guy's just seen the tune somehow and wants to play it.
It's kind of like more of an old school approach.
Yeah, it was Jeremiah Assam.
Oh yeah.
He DM'd.
There's some romance in there.
Yeah, that one felt a bit more like but ultimately it's like it's kind of the same thing really, and just
But that being said though, because again Spotify like all these streaming platforms, whether it's like TV, film or music, like they like to keep a lot of their information on their algorithms and stuff kind of close to their chest. They don't like to disclose how and why they pick what they pick. It's their business model. They don't want that being public knowledge. We don't know if our tunes are making it into playlists to simply add stylistic diversity into the mix, or because they actually like the tune, or if it's just the latest numbers.
It's probably a bit of all of it, isn't it? Really?
Well, I mean, there is obviously it's a mixture.
There is obviously some sort of tastemaker on Spotify and who's saying yes and no to tunes, right? Yeah. But what that's based on, could be a multitude of things. Basically, it could be this tune's sick, or this artist is hot right now, or Then
it could also be a room of 30 people.
Yeah.
So isn't the label pitching most?
They are as well, but then obviously someone on the end of Spotify has to say yes or no.
Yeah, 100. Yeah.
But what that's based on is what we don't know, basically. Yeah. But I mean, listen, it's still like. Also, I'm happy for people to take joy in whatever they want to take joy in. So if you do get gassed about getting on the place, and I was like, don't get me wrong, that new music thing, I was like, sick. Like that's it felt like a milestone. But then I kind of caught myself almost second guessing it to be like, I think overall I'm happy. But it was just like a thought that occurred in my mind to be like, should we be almost grateful to Spotify for this situation we're in? If that makes sense.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because like, I honestly, if I got on playlists, I'm like, oh, sick. Like, I never even give it a second thought until you said them. But obviously, I'll be the first to gun the platform off, even though I'm using it, because it's like,
we all use it, don't we? We all know
we all know how much like of a percentage of a penny we're getting like per play. So it's like that's not. you know, it's like that's like information that everyone has access to, so everyone knows that it's a piss take. But you know, what did you do? How do you avoid it? There is no avoiding it. It's kind of like similar to the social thing. You just got to get on board and ride it out,
now,
really.
Yeah.
I mean, unless they're going to change their approach, which obviously we'd all love to, but not anymore. No, and they're not going to be like, oh, we need to really sort out these.
We're going to pay you more money all of a sudden.
I mean, the only alternative. I think the only alternative is for everybody to actively encourage and use Spotify freely, but then for the tunes that they really love, like go and buy, whether it's the artist or whether it's an album. Like if it's an album you really love, go buy the vinyl, and then just now that's a piece of memorable. Even if you don't have a record player, like you're just going to hold on to that for 20 years, and in 20 years whereas you won't have a Spotify playlist in 20 years.
Also, from an artist perspective, make sure your artwork's good, man. Like,
because
that helps.
If you're going to hold on to that album for 20 years,
you got to put effort into it.
Like poo, do you?
That's one thing as well. That it's a completely different topic, but putting effort into the artwork. Really, I think it pays off, man.
We live in a visual society, man. Everything's about a visual these days. It's much more so than it has been like any other time in history.
Yeah,
that's what you see.
100%. One thing, I feel like
I don't know why.
Yeah, nah. One thing as
yes,
I guess part of this like format of this podcast with no guesses, we can talk more generally about the scene.
Yeah.
Dun dun dun.
Cat killing raves.
Yeah, like I mean, I've banged on about that every single episode, and I'm so shout out Sam Bingham, man.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh yeah,
that's why I put it in, because I saw. It's funny because we talk about it with like every guest, right?
Yeah.
Like Cat somehow comes up in every single episode.
Yeah.
And I always feel like I'm just ranting, but then Sam and a bunch of DJs. It was on Vice, or was it on Vice?
Yeah, it was on Vice.
It was on Vice. Did that whole article, and I just made me laugh because I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, this is actually opinion other than that."
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say too much on it. It's just go read the article, man. It's an interesting take on it. I think, like,
I had I really enjoyed reading the article, but also the comments. The comments on almost like every Facebook post that shared it and like Twitter posts were really interesting. I was hearing a lot of, not necessarily like pro cat fans, but like people, because obviously our viewpoint, well, my viewpoint on it at least was that it's a bit of a downer.
It is.
Substance.
It's dissociative.
Whereas there were a lot of people in the comments, or a handful of people in the comments, sort of saying that obviously they have had very different experiences to what we describe.
Yeah.
When taking Ket, and it's been much more of like an upper for them.
I feel like that's how much you do, though. Isn't it?
Well, yeah,
it
but
sounds like an accidental line of cocaine to me.
No, I don't know. I just read some comments. I thought it was quite interesting
Yeah.
because I personally, obviously, it just hearing it from the people that we're talking to, it's all people hearing it from our side of the decks that all do think it's a negative.
Yeah.
And I actually don't get a chance to hear the opinions of punters who might be taking it and might think it's a good thing.
I see the opposite argument, right? I see like people saying it lets me disconnect from what's happening around me and just hone in on what's happening in front, which I get. I do get, but I don't know.
I don't think
it's difficult
the case
to get
with everybody in the room when there's 2,500 ravers there. It's like you're not all doing Ket.
You're not all having this like spiritual moment on your own at the same time.
No chance.
I think it's difficult to get a comparison from the raver because fundamentally producers have gone through like a history or their history involved in this music, and they've seen raving how it used to be to how it is in the modern day.
Yeah,
and I guess the kids of today,
he actually said
the
it.
youth
My
of today,
God.
but like
you know, like it used to be.
Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, there's so many levels to this, but I guess it's just like they didn't really experience raving back then, so they don't have really a comparison. It's just like that. This is what it is for them, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Realistically, that's their experience. Like, it's okay for it to be like that. But I guess the reason people will moan about this is because it's like you can see the difference in what's gone on. I'd say something that runs alongside this as well is that I think it's the attention span culture. That, don't get me wrong, obviously, Ket, but Ket isn't the sole reason that we've lost a vibe in a rave. Like, not everyone's on Ket, and I'm sure people in the comments being like, "What?" Like, I was pulled off my nut, having a great time. Like, so you can't generalize in these things. And I think part of what I was talking to someone about the other day, I can't remember because my memory's awful, but
I saw that Ket.
I think I think that it's actually there's a short attention span, right? And people tend to go, I feel like, to see a set to see a tune. Right?
Yeah, phone line.
But they'll be like, I need to go watch.
I'm sorry.
They're like, I need to go watch that artist because I love that tune of theirs.
100%.
Yeah. And if you're bowling around a festival, you're basically going like most people who are into like a wide variety of drum and bass artists are going there. Really, all they want to hear is they want to hear that tune. They want to get a video of it on their phone, and then they're moving on to their next set to go catch the next tune they want to catch. Yeah. It has become less about the journey.
That's
and
festival culture as well, though, isn't it?
That is definitely festival culture, but
I think club culture is different still.
it is different still, but you can see it's leaked in. It's not like, it is less about the journey. And I know I'm being an old bastard saying that, but I'll say that with pride because I do miss that about like sets. And like, obviously there's certain artists that, you know, you still know you're going to get that like credibility and that like commitment to telling a story within the hour and a half they're on. But a lot of people are turning up being like, okay, how can I do that to a certain extent, but also got to make sure I fit all these bangers in that everyone came to see, you know? It's like playing for the crowd more than ever.
I think it's the drop clips.
I
think drop clips on during COVID especially, like you had a lot of people who had never been to a rave because they turned 18 when clubs were all shut, and then 18 months later the clubs all reopen, and their only impression of clubbing is the 10-second drop clips that went up from a carousel of someone's set. Naturally, you're only going to post the clips that are the most high energy and look impressive and sound impressive, right? And look entertaining to sell yourself as an artist and as a DJ, and to show everyone what a great time they could have if they come to your show.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people off the back of those clips then expect the whole set to sound like that, and so the DJs then feel they, even if they're not then feeling the pressure off their own post, but they're looking at everybody else's social media posts and going, oh god, everybody's playing really heavy. I ain't got a clue if that person played heavy that set. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at 10 clips and I'm made up my mind, and now all of a sudden you go, maybe I need to play a little bit heavier. Me and Harry had that moment.
I
And
think
we
we
were
all
like,
do.
well, we need to
It's so difficult
not do
when
that
you're
too often.
I'm going to
You
be
know
a jump
what's-
up MC next year. Trust me, I'm getting that cash.
It's so difficult though, like when you're not a when you're not a DJ that plays that way all the time, and you feel that pressure thing you said. I've definitely felt that because like 40%, 50% of my and Tom's sets are probably liquid, so that's not that exciting on camera. Do you know what I mean? But people are having a good time. Oh, I was going to say though, it's not all doom and gloom with this stuff, like because there are DJs like the story thing you're talking about, the journey thing. I think that's a very romantic idea of thinking about DJing, and I think certain genres, and obviously when we grew up, that was very much the kind of thing. I think energy is the other thing now. Like maintaining energy in a set is as valid as painting this really beautiful story, I think.
There's a balance.
And I think you can do, like, I certainly feel like the last 6 months, some of our sets have just been high energy, but that's covered a few different genres. So there's like energy within liquid, there's energy. Like, one thing I love about you and Harry is you still play like old Technomatic tunes and they go off.
Yeah.
So it's all about picking, like, I think the art of DJing has changed somewhat. To like pick the moments to drop certain things, which to be fair, that's always been the art of DJing. But like the whole like stitching together a story that progresses is still very valid in certain environments. But I think you've got to pick that environment very carefully, or be aware of that environment.
Oh, 100%.
And like the way you play at a festival won't be the same as the way you play at a club, which again has probably always been the case, but I think it's more prevalent now.
Well, I mean, it also just depending on the festival. The last few festivals me and Harry have played at, they were great. We had a lovely time. Really, really enjoyed playing those sets. However, the next festival we're playing at is Sun and Bass, and I cannot wait to play that set because I know that there's tunes that me and Harry haven't played in our sets for the last 3-4 years
And
since we were last at Sun and Bass.
beauty
The
of
funny thing is, some DJs, and I think it's a valid point, will be like stick to your guns no matter what. That is an approach too.
I mean, I get it's different.
It's different horses for different courses.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
You're right about the energy, though. I think we are going through a period where, like, you know, we've said it on the pod before that, like, jump ups in a particularly, you know, good space at the moment, and like fair play, like it is that high energy.
People like the energy,
yeah, and like I think that is leaking through into all sort of like subgenres of D&B, and people are looking at that and being like, well, actually, I want that vibe. So you know, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a personal preference.
What I will shout out though is two things. So I saw Lawrence posted this thing about his new club night and what the like, ethos is, which I think that's quite cool as well to have like promoters up front saying the ethos of this night is X. And I guess like back in the day, Soul in Motion did it, and people done it before. I think there's less of that now. I think it's more about just selling tickets and you know, selling out a show or whatever. But I like the fact that people are thinking a bit more. There's kind of been a response to this movement, which has kind of been basically going a bit more underground, which is also cool because it means you have both. And yeah, what Lawrence is doing, I think it's going to be cool. I think other people have been doing it with the Shogun Sessions thing. That's been really cool. Like, Fabric the other day, last week at the Cool FM.
Yeah,
that was one of the best sets, or my most enjoyable sets I played in ages, because it was like the new Room 2 feels like proper Fabric
every
again.
single person I've spoken to about that
honestly
has
man,
literally mentioned that new Room 2
and I will
rig.
say, Fabric have done some active things. Like they've done the whole like no phones things. They put stickers on the cameras. Obviously, Room 2 now, the sound system is just crazy, and the room's just dark, and it's just like lasers, and it's like what you think about a nightclub. It's like they've recreated that vibe, and Cool FM put a really good show on, put like a cool lineup on, and like we played like in between Lens and Benny L, and I was like, oh man, like this is gonna be difficult, but like then it was back to back with Dogger, and then we basically just played Liquid, and it was just like going off, and then we played that heavy, and it was like that was sick, like. If only every club could be like that, but I get why they can't be. Yeah. But like, it is happening still, basically.
There's a story I've been telling people recently whenever this kind of conversation comes up about like the vibes in the rave and stuff. Yeah. And I'm sure both parties won't mind me saying this, but I was at a Worried About Henry show in Leeds a couple of months ago, and I was playing, and straight after me was Luke LSB, and straight after him was Mosey.
Yeah.
And
that's a bad lineup.
LSB vibed, rolled out, sick. I loved every second, stood there and went, oh, you were there as well.
I was.
You were hosting my set and then LSB set. Yeah. And I was telling you in the car about this, like, and after the set,
Jack's just remembering everything went off.
It's that weed smoking.
Oh yeah, I had a spliff before the set, and then I had a spliff immediately after the set whilst we were watching Luke's set.
Do you remember our 3-hour drive home?
Yes, I do,
karaoke sing along. That was fucking vibes.
Every car I get into, mate, it always ends in a karaoke sing along. But Luke LSB, he said to me as he came off, he was like, I enjoyed that, and I was like, mate, that was a sick set.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, it's because by this point Mosey has just gone in, and he's just like shit is hitting the fan, and everyone is going wild and going nuts, and he's doing his thing, and Luke was like, yeah, it was bit of a weird vibe, like playing to that kind of crowd, and then Mosey coming on straight afterwards, and I was like, no, I mean like.
It's
everybody,
perfect,
people, like no one left.
Yeah,
everybody was stood there vibing and enjoying it. And he was like, yeah. But I said to him, I was like, there were about 3 different occasions where somebody would be there with their mates having a little dance or whatever, and like there's a bit of a chat, and then suddenly they just turn around and completely disregard all of their friends, and they're just fixated on the speaker. And then I've just watched them not take their eyes off for the remainder of the 45 minutes of the set.
Yeah,
and like I said to Luke, I was like, I had that moment. Everybody's had that moment where they've stood in the set in the rave, kind of just vibing out, and then a tune that's really special. You hear it for the first time, you go, holy shit, what is that?
Yeah.
And suddenly you are just, you are captivated for the rest of the set.
Yeah, I think we underestimate a little bit this new generation of raver.
We do, man. I think there's too much
I honestly think, like, if you do your job properly as a DJ, you can win over people, basically. Yeah. Which is essentially probably what it is, ultimately. Like, if someone's coming to, like, Mosey, Mike is, like, the tour de force in drum and bass right now. So, undoubtedly, a lot of those people came to see him. But like for like you, well, obviously people come to see you as well. But like maybe for that crowd, they maybe even heard of Luke.
Yeah.
Obviously, Luke to us is like a legend.
Definitely didn't have a clue who I was.
Yeah. So like, but the fact that you're saying that means that Luke won over that crowd and they really enjoyed it. And I think that's why I don't think it's all doom and gloom. Like I get it.
I totally agree.
But we're also like, this is the whole thing about like looking at the kind of trying to take the temperature of the scene via social media is difficult.
Yeah.
It kind of makes you think it's all going one way.
It does make you think, like, we were talking about like, oh, there's no excuses. Everybody should find the time. And then we've also mentioned that some artists are just aren't interested in posting stuff on social media. It's like, to an extent, you can say, well, then if that's fine, you don't have to do that. You might be playing catch up from time to time in this regard or over here in that sense. But equally, like you said, there are some people it's not the way to scream and shout about some of this stuff. It is a little bit more like we've got a smaller community and it's about maintaining what's cool and what's underground, and actually screaming and shouting about it on social media with drop clips isn't the way to do that. And actually just having what's special and just maintaining that, making sure it's but then equal part, if there's responsibility being thrust on artists to suddenly be on social media a little bit more, but it's like, well, then there should be equal responsibility on promoters to make sure that these artists are still being represented in the rave, because if they're not going to be represented on social media and their music does still get represented in the playlists, well, then they should be represented in the clubs. Just because it doesn't fit your MO of like, oh, I'm not going to get the best drop clips to promote my next club night. It's like, well, look, This is an investment. It's a risk. We're all investing in this. We're all writing the music. We don't hope. We're all hoping to get paid out of it.
Yeah, it is difficult
Promoters-
for promoters.
I
At the same time.
totally
I
get
do
it.
sympathise
It's
with
tough.
some promoters for sure.
The market at the moment is like
The
probably
biggest risk is on
worst
them.
it's
The
ever
biggest
been.
risk is on them. But
Yeah,
there's many promoters out there doing a fantastic job with having like a good variety of styles of drum and bass and not just being like balls to the wall, like
yeah,
pure energy. Like there are many promoters that are getting a good eclectic lineup of styles and stuff on there, but there are definitely some that I think could like just tweak one artist on that 8-9 artist bill.
yeah.
It's not a huge risk, and suddenly you could incentivize a couple of extra people to turn up, or even people to turn up a little bit earlier or stay later just to
Yeah.
catch that DJ.
Yeah.
That person that they might not ever go to. I don't know. They're into souped up sort of stuff, and so they might not go to a 1985 night or a Footnotes night, or a Shogun night. Who knows? But if you get one of those artists and you put them on that bill, which is majority sort of jump uppy sort of stuff and
Yeah.
like dance floor stuff, now all of a sudden staying 1 hour later to see that artist that they wouldn't see otherwise could be the. Do you know what I mean? It could be the thing that opens the door for
This
them.
is one thing that Shogun have actually done really well with the sessions there, I
Yeah.
would say, because they've booked such a variety of artists.
Yep.
And they're putting this on for free. And
Yeah,
it's giving students who don't have to go to work on a Thursday the chance to come down and hear some music for free.
Yeah.
And they're seeing all these different DJs and MCs or whatever, and it's like more, and I get it, it's difficult. Shogun are obviously paying out of their own pocket for that, but it's like they're quite an established force in this scene and they can do that.
Yeah.
And I guess more people need to just try and be doing that because ultimately, the roots and the foundation of this is those small club nights. So it's like, if more people did that, then I think we'd be all right.
100%.
I do think they're on their way back though.
100%.
It's like
That's
everything
what I
goes
said.
full
Every time you have
circle,
a
like-
movement, there's always an opposite reaction to that movement.
100%.
And
And I mean, we've
this
just
is happening.
seen multiple 20,000 capacity London shows in for drum and bass like in the last couple of months
Which
and
is
stuff,
nuts, by the way.
which is absolutely
Yeah,
mental.
yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like,
and then drum
never
sheds.
thought that. Yeah, now you got
That's gonna
drum
be the next
sheds. Yeah,
thing.
Yeah.
like that's bonkers. But it has. We were talking about it literally a few episodes ago. We were talking about why would somebody spend 80 quid a night on a night out and do that 3-4 times in a month when they could and go to a tiny little club night, see one or two artists when, excuse me, they could spend twice as much on one big day out
Yeah.
and go once a month to a show that's got 30 artists on the lineup. And like I totally understand the kind of economics of that, but I think the desire for something cool and underground and like special, because
Yeah.
I was there and you weren't, because
Yeah.
there were only 500 people in the room, not 20,000.
It's coming back, man.
Yeah,
100.
I think people were craving it.
The exclusivity of it, and just generally, you can't like you go to a night like that, like that's just minimal capacity. It's a community vibe. Like you know, people like anyone listening that hasn't done that, go do that, because you'll learn something about yourself and you'll find out, actually, do I need to be seeing all these big people, or do I go, you know, witness the journey go down, and like, you
There
know,
it is again,
how
the
you
journey.
yeah, but it's true. Like,
No,
I agree.
I
There's-
want to be there for that. Like
Yeah.
that's like you said about that cool night, sounded iconic, you know. And it's like people be talking about that. You know, when you're talking about Fabric, I was getting goosebumps because it's
Yeah.
like, raw. That sounds like Fabric when I was 18 years
That's what it
old.
felt like for me, man.
Yeah,
That's what it felt like for
where I
me.
like
Yeah.
literally like used to go every single weekend and
Where
queue
you
up
cut
for
your
like
teeth as a raver.
2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 100%.
And the thing is that
the
there are
end,
going to
like-
be like 18, 19, 20-year-old listeners that only have known these huge scale events.
The crowd, you know what? That crowd was pretty young there at that cool thing, which was also sick.
Mate, you go to a metalhead, like when I used to obviously be on a different agency, used to get loads more metalheads bookings. It was interesting when you said like we like what is it you said about the youth? Like we underestimate them, yeah. And like it's so true, because I used to play like at basically most metalhead shows, and like the crowd is young, and it's like they're listening to like jungly.
I was
like,
going to say,
future
look
jungly
at the
music.
jungle scene now, man. The jungle scene and the garage scene is like popping off again. And it's young people going to this stuff.
Yeah.
So there
Whereas
is
young tickets, young people are people who buy tickets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
They're
true.
people that go out. But
Everyone else is catting for guest list and backstage.
In
too,
it.
too old to be in a crowd.
Shout
Come on.
at all my friends. And they're
I
always
see
the
ya.
first to go
Leave
home,
it
you know?
at.
Yeah, and then leaving at 1. What are you doing?
Dead. Could have given it to someone who cared.
In it.
I mean, look,
Atting all my mates.
there will be a lot of
start naming and
Just
shaming.
start
like-
naming people. I
But, like,
see.
for those younger ravers that like aren't aware, or like I don't know how it is now, but when we were all 18, that weren't that long ago. Yeah,
20
that's quite a
years,
while.
bro.
Oh god, that's quite a
Wow.
while
That
ago.
was a while ago.
Yeah, 15
You
years
made me
ago.
feel very old
Jesus.
then.
Yeah.
But like you looked at every city up and down the country, and the biggest club night in every city on a Friday night or a Saturday night was a drum and bass night.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether it's the biggest night now across but surely every city across the country has got drum and bass once a month somewhere.
Yeah.
Like someone needs to prove me wrong there if that's wrong.
I think it's still the case.
Like by city, you're talking like an actual city, right?
Yeah, well,
We're not
it's the
talking
thing,
towns.
man. In the last like
you'd have
10
to have
years,
a cathedral and that.
No, that's an urban myth, mate. It's nonsense.
Is it?
Yeah, there's
Is it
loads.
actually?
Do you know what dictates a city?
Go on.
It's literally the king. Well, what we now have is a king. That's who dictates the city. That's it. That's
Well, he
literally
just
it.
said
Nothing
what
to
he
do with
says.
the
That's a
cathedral.
city or that's not a
What's the
city.
smallest city?
Every
You get
year-
Ely, is it? The one
Mate,
near Cambridge.
every year.
That's cathedral vibes, isn't it?
Even
Ely is
Milton
that's
Keynes
one
is
that
a
moves.
pissing city now, mate. Like,
Is it?
yeah, loads of them are, man. Every year they add like 5 cities to this list. At some point, yeah, like I don't know. I'm trying to think of a small town. Oh,
can't.
piss this up.
You
But
can't.
yeah, mug that one
You're
off.
going to offend someone along the way with that
Yeah,
one as
well,
well.
yeah.
It's like
But,
some shit town.
but some like it's going to get to a point where everywhere is just going to be a city. But yeah, every year they add a couple of cities to the list.
Fair.
Yeah,
Jack's
Reading still
random
isn't
fact. To be fair, we did say you were going to do a random fact every
Yeah.
episode about 2 years ago, and I don't think you did.
I reckon
So,
he's probably kept that up most. He always comes with
He's
something
a random guy,
off
isn't
piece and interesting.
yeah. What's
Oh.
everyone listening to at the moment? You forgot about that, didn't you?
Yeah,
Been a
Yeah, I
while.
mean, yeah, I didn't
What
think we
have
were
I been
doing
listening
segment
to?
ones.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know what I've been listening to. I've been listening to a lot.
You get your
of-
Spotify.
Yeah,
I've
I'm
just
getting it
cussed
up.
Spotify. Everyone get the Spotify playlist out.
It sounds
Fucking Spotify.
it sounds really bait, but I've been listening to a lot of Skrillex. But like
But his new
deep-
stuff.
So his new stuff, but deep diving. So it was that single that he did, Badders.
Yeah, with Peekaboo and Flo.
Yeah,
Bad
absolute
tune.
bad tune.
Man.
Right, so it was that tune that made me go, oh, hang on a second. There was a point where he went back and he did like an EP of like deep dubstep,
Yeah.
like 6 years ago, 5-6 years ago. And I went back and looked at, mate, he's had so many great tunes out in the
He's a
last
sick
like 4 or
producer.
5 years.
I mean, people
that-
think he's a bit of a meme, but he's actually an
Yeah,
amazing
yeah.
producer.
But there were so many because of that viewpoint. I shared that view for a very long time, and so I just kind of wrote off checking and listening to a lot. Saw that he was putting out music, but just didn't beyond social media clips. Didn't really pay it much attention until a year or two ago, and really enjoyed that last. In fact, both of those last 2 albums.
You know what
that
as
came
well? He's
out.
actually really sound as well. I met him once, and he was so
Yeah.
nice.
You met him at Hospitality.
Like
last
yeah,
year?
like, no, yeah,
Year
like a
before?
couple of years ago.
Yeah.
When I was fat, I met him. Yeah, he's really nice. It's
Yeah.
super sound dude, man. Like, yeah. Like you think someone that big, you think, oh, it's probably a bit of a dig, but nah, can't say a bad word about him. Real nice dude,
Yeah.
super talented.
Yeah, really
So
good producer. What have you been
Skrillex,
listening to? Yeah,
a few things. I've been stuck in this weird early 2000s hip hop like loop again, like
Nice.
Cameron, Dre, all that sort of stuff. 50 Cent.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's been gassing me up. You know what it is? I've just been clocking how good Dre's production is, and like early Neptunes. Like, basically, I've been looking at producers whose music still sounds really good now.
yeah.
And I don't know. I've been trying to think about how that could translate to what we're doing. I guess like subconsciously, but yeah. Timbaland and these guys, man, they were making tunes like Dre, especially. Like, listen to Dre Explosive. That tune came out in 2001 or
Yeah.
2000. Mix sounds crazy.
Still sounds
Like, it
fat.
sounds fat and fresh. It's mad. That tune's like, yeah.
I
So-
was watching Bad Boys 2 the other day,
Okay.
as you do.
As you do.
Me and the wife, and Dr. Dre produced the whole soundtrack for that,
Yeah,
which I
he's a
didn't
joke.
know.
He's a
And then
joke.
you sit there. We saw it at the opening credits, and then I sit there and watch this whole movie.
Yeah,
Obviously, now it's like the 20th time I've watched it because it is just a Badman film.
yeah,
So I can now focus just on the soundtrack and not actually have to worry about the plot or the rest of it.
yeah.
And it was insane how simple some of the music was in that, but just used so effectively in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
film and stuff.
Yeah.
And some of it just being just straight up hip hop beats, just
Yeah.
and just working really, really well in the scenes.
Yeah, no. Shout. I mean, he doesn't need a shout, does he?
No.
Shout out to Dre. Like, yeah, we just made your career, bro.
Yeah, in case you guys haven't heard of Dr. Dre, go check him out
Yeah,
on his
new
socials.
artist.
Yeah.
And I was trying to think of like new music. I mean, so Sampha seems to have re-emerged from nowhere again because I think he's got an album coming out. So he's been featuring on a few tunes. There's this album, and I can't remember who it's by. So there's something Quartet Corner. Hang on. Rich, while I'm looking for this, what's your... Oh, I found it. Speakers Corner Quartet is an album they've done. It's got Samfer on it twice. It's got loads. I think they're like a jazz band, but they've just got loads of vocalists on there. It's sick. So good.
Nice.
So yeah, that's been a big one for me recently.
Rich?
I haven't really been listening to anything that's like new, particularly apart from like going through the old dub folder and like trying to put new bits on the USB that I never
dubs
use.
now.
Oh, well, yeah, I just mean like the promos I get. Like still,
Yeah.
them personal dubs are elusive.
I got to
bro.
send you my new EP. I haven't sent it yet.
I mean, I got that.
No, the new EP.
Oh, the new, yeah. Sorry, my bad.
The new one.
Fresher than fresh.
Yeah.
But so I went back and listened to Jam Baxter, So We Ate Them Whole recently.
Mhm.
Ever heard that album?
I've got one tune off that album, favourite, I think.
Yeah, it's sick album. And then other than that, I've just been listening to. For me, you know what I'm like. I'm just like nostalgic old brer in it. I just like going back and listening to things that remind me of when I was young. So yeah, like Cinematic Orchestra.
Yeah.
What's it? I should have actually looked that up. But that old, I listened to that whole album the other day. You know, the one with the Roots Maneuver track on it.
Yeah.
That is like iconic. That album. So I guess just like I'm just always digging in archives of like weird electronica stuff when I'm not listening to drum and bass. Really,
Nice.
I guess. But
Did you say Cinematic Orchestra?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they did a thing with Roots Maneuver.
Yeah.
See, I mistook that for Abstract Orchestra because they did like
Mate,
a
there's
whole
so
thing
many
with
groups
MF
called
Doom.
something orchestra
Orchestra.
when you
Yeah,
deep
yeah.
it as
Yeah.
bare.
But I mean, by the sounds of it, this is essentially like a kind of orchestral take on like a MF Doom track, or it might have even been a collaborative thing. But it sounds like it could be quite similar.
Every Day was the album that I was talking about. That's what that one's called. Also, if you're into music like that, you should look up a group or dude called Emancipator. They're also absolutely sick. I listen to them all the time.
4/4 and bootlegs, and the reason I'm bringing it up is because I think I tweeted
Really
about
looking
it.
forward to this.
I tweeted about it like 3 weeks ago. I can't remember what the tweet was. It was kind of a little bit cussing 4/4,
Valid.
but you know, so basically,
No, Jack.
what happened was I tweeted it. I think it was just in the moment of weakness. I don't normally try and like do inflammatory tweets, but it was just like, you know what, some of this is just mad. Anyway, obviously there was the whole bootleg drama about the 4/4 bootleg of Badder.
Oh yeah,
Can't even say it.
bad.
So then El Hornet made a video as he does about 4/4 and included my tweet in it as like a guy who hates 4/4.
Oh no.
And made a whole 1 minute video about why 4/4 is great. And I thought, you know what you've done is you've taken my tweet out of context and made a whole 1 minute.
Oh, so this is
response to it.
This is John's public like.
John, you got.
I'm not beefing. I'm
Call
not
him out,
beefing.
innit?
I'm not beefing, but it was just like, you know,
Charity fight. Let's go.
there's only so much you can say in a
Oh,
tweet
fuck
versus
you
a
up,
1 minute video.
Valid.
So
it's
I
not
said,
fair.
yeah, no,
it's not
it's
fair.
not-
I don't
yeah.
think it's a fair matchup, basically.
So here you are going one up and up.
And here's an hour and a half long podcast to respond to that. Nah, not even. Not even. The thing is, the points he made were very valid, yeah, about like hardcore and like all of those early genres kind of feeding into that, which is fine. I think, oh no, my tweet, I remember what it was now. I think I said this new 4/4 thing, and the key word is new.
Yep.
So the stuff that's coming out now is the final boss of gentrified drum and bass, is what my tweet was. I thought it was a banger, to be honest.
That's kind of good. I like it.
And like my point was like what I'm hearing now, kind of spurred on by these bootlegs of just like taking a tune and just putting a 4/4 kick under it. Like that's boring.
Yeah.
And like I don't know. I personally don't like the sound of it. Everyone's allowed an opinion. Some people love it.
Nah, they can get fucked.
But
That shit's dead.
I'm trying to be diplomatic about it because I get it. People like stuff. But yeah, I was just like, you know what? This is not what I recognise to be the genre that I love. But that also, my opinion is irrelevant in many ways. So I get why people think the opposite.
Do you know?
That's.
But that was kind of the thing.
This is the
right?
way I see it. Yeah, is
Yeah.
it's like, look, there are people that are going to do this because it clearly is getting a reaction, and as
Yeah.
we were talking about earlier, reactionary elements in drum and bass sell at the
Yeah,
moment. Whether that's at
absolutely.
the moment or whether that's forever, who knows? Who cares really? I'm not going to play it. You can play it. Just don't get pissy if I walk out the room when you play it. But then
Yeah.
equally, you shouldn't care if I walk out the room
This
when you
is
play it.
it.
You're like, as
Go
long
be-
as the whole room don't empty out, then you're
Yeah.
doing your job and you have fun, mate. Like
To me,
crack
it's
on.
Gabba, but like that's me. Though, innit?
Go make some techno. Fuck off and do us.
No, look. There are a couple of these 4/4 tunes that I've heard that I do.
The
quite
creative
like.
ones.
So like
Some of
there's
them.
the
Yeah.
Camo and Crooked and Mephius one of Breathe.
Yeah.
It's an obvious one to
Yeah.
call for,
But
but
this is
like,
my
I
point,
really
though.
like that. I think it works, but I think it's because. For me, I think it works because stylistically that tune was about them trying to break out of just the same drum and bass
Like
pattern
two-step.
because
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's remixing a classic dance tune, like
But
British dance music.
This kind of touches
It's almost
on my
like
point, though.
having a bit of heritage of everything, which
Yeah,
like El
yeah, yeah.
Hornet kind of touched
But
on.
that's different though. That's different to what I'm talking about. So like the thing, being creative with drum patterns, because he like named a bunch of Dillinger tunes that had like alternative drum patterns, and I agree with everything he said in the video.
Yeah.
I guess the point was like the nuance in what I was trying to say didn't come across because it's Twitter or X. It's X now.
Were you kind of mentioning like the baitness of like, oh, I'm gonna bootleg something, so I'll just put a 4/4.
I didn't say that. In
Same
a very
way,
long,
like
yeah.
for a very long time, we probably had something to do with that a little bit as well. With like, and Josh as well. A bootleg is gonna be no different until the drop.
Yeah,
it's like the intro will remain the same.
Yeah. Like, listen,
and then
like
that became a real thing. And
if I had a second go at that tweet, I'd make it 5 tweets to clarify what I'm saying. But that's not fun. That's not fun for anyone.
Yeah,
John's not going to get likes.
You also might not have ended up in his video.
Yeah, so ultimately engagement is king. So
Good
I did what I
PR.
did. I did what I did.
Any PR
But
is good PR.
the overall point was, listen, because like Rockwell had a tune years ago that had like a 4/4 section or something. I can't remember what the tune was called, but it was sick. Like, I'm not hating on the drum pattern because ultimately house exists. You know what I mean? Like 4/4 music exists and it's good.
Detroit.
Yeah,
That was
it
the
Detroit?
tune,
Yeah,
I'm almost certain of it.
yeah.
So I was on a Rockwell rabbit hole the other day.
Yeah. So like, my point was like, it's more about the creativity aspect, which maybe I'm fighting a losing battle there because ultimately, people don't really care about creativity all the time. So even what I'm saying about this maybe isn't valid in some way. Well, it is valid. It's my opinion.
Mean the kind of like generic.
I just
like,
think
stuff,
taking a tune and then just slapping a different drum beat on it and calling it 4/4 and saying it's like a tribute to hardcore is nonsense. Like, that's nonsense.
Yeah,
to me.
I totally agree.
So yeah, basically, Horn, if you do listen to this podcast, I actually agree with a lot of what you're saying, but you took what I said out of context. That's fine. That's fine.
What are you saying here, mate?
I'm just wanting to clarify that because people saw that. I got a message about it. I'm like, have you seen this? And I was like, yeah, but like, it's not that deep. It's not really what I meant. Blah, blah,
It
blah.
happens, man. We're all in a very like close knit scene. It is what
Yeah,
it is, you know
but
what I mean?
also I don't care. I
Fundamentally,
actually don't
though,
care.
that like real generic bait 4/4 stuff, the cheesy stuff that everyone's making, makes me feel physically sick. So I fully back your
Listen,
tweet.
I don't want to hear it in a rave, but
No.
people do want to hear it in a rave, so whatever.
Yeah.
And that's the end of that. The bootleg thing hasn't gone away. It's not going away. Let's go over it. Basically, that's not going away.
I don't have the same. I hate 4/4 more than I hate bootlegs. Bootlegs are, if they're done well, like.
You know what's funny as well about the bootleg thing? For some reason, whenever I hear a garage bootleg, which is equally as easy to do, I love it. For some reason, it's the drum and bass. I think it just annoys me. But it's here to stay, man. It's always been around. Eventually, people are going to bootleg themselves into a corner and not be able to get out of it. But that's a different thing, isn't it?
Well, that's it. I think when it comes to bootlegging stuff, I think that's the only real criticism or anything that anybody can say. And I can say this, right? I'm allowed to say this, okay? And it's just, you like, do what you want to do. People are going to do it. It's going to happen, right?
Yeah,
The bootlegging thing is going to happen, but it's just about how you handle it when it happens, right?
Yeah.
It's just about.
And what you do off the back of it as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's just handling it respectfully. Because like some artists won't give a shit and others will really give a shit, and it's just how you
that was the
handle
whole
yourself
thing
in
with
that
the
situation.
Chasing Stairs and Boo thing,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Because that just kicked off.
And it's
different.
like if
don't
you're
even know
gonna do something with someone's material, the first person you send that to is
them.
that artist. Like,
Yeah.
and again, like it seems common sense, but it's very easy to not do it. I think what would be good is for us to ask for people to. I think there's like a little call to action you can put at the end of this podcast on Spotify, so that people can write into us at the end of the podcast within the Spotify app, and we get those messages.
Oh, nice.
So we'll test that. That might not be the case, but if whether it is or isn't, also leave comments on the Instagram posts.
Yeah,
like
hit us up on
this. Like,
Instagram.
we need some topics to talk.
Yeah, I want to make this more interactive, man. Like, because like I said,
Be controversial.
we're gonna try and do this more often with just the three of us, so we don't have to always rely on.
We should be trying to do one of these a month.
But let's not make
really.
promises on air.
Oh,
Yeah, let's
Let's just relax. Innit?
I'm the guy that's always in our group going, "What's going on?"
Yeah, but then I'm the guy that actually makes it happen. So that's,
What, just because you have a membership at the Cube?
I book it,
And
so-
I'm the guy.
Yeah,
Actually, that's true.
Jack's just the guy. Nah, you're editing, bro.
Yeah,
you
to
got a
be
big
fair,
job.
you're the guy that's got the work. But
Yeah.
you work. You're full-time music, mate. Crack on.
Yeah. No. I was just gonna say, like, what we'll do is because obviously we don't want to just sit here and rant every. Or maybe we do.
No, I do. But give us
No, I
things
don't.
to
yeah,
rant
we'll
about.
make it more interactive, man. We'll come up with some sort of questions.
I don't want
and
John
stuff.
picking the topics every fucking time.
No, because the members have no topics. So we want to make it more interactive. We're gonna do something with you guys, basically. But let's announce for the 5th time that we're back. officially
We never
back.
left and we're
Also,
never
if you've
coming
got people
back.
that you want to bring on as well, if you've got guests you want to bring on, also let us know, man. Because I've got a few ideas for people.
And we will do our best to make it happen
Do our
in
best
the
to make it
next
happen.
18 months.
Or
Yeah.
like different ideas of what you would like to see from us as well.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you know, it's always good to hear people's opinions on what we're doing.
Yeah,
'cause
it's your podcast, not ours.
Yeah.
So just you tell us how you want it done.
I like that. It's the People's Podcast.
I will let you down.
Oh yeah, and we'll fail to deliver on that as well,
And then you can just shout abuse at us in the
rave.
smoking area.
which you do anyway. So it's fine.
Yeah, we love you all.
Yeah. So yeah, that's been it. We're back again. Bye.
Peace.
Ciao.